Hello and welcome to the 5th episode of Potterwatch from page to screen. I'm Elizabeth.
And I'm Lucy.
And today we'll be discussing The Potions Master and Flying Lesson.
But first, let's reach into the sorting hat and answer some questions. Some random questions. Today, Elizabeth will be picking a Harry Potter question and I have a completely random one. So, can we go first?
Sure. Okay. Oh, this is a semi-boring one.
Okay, mine's kind of boring too.
Okay. What do you think your life would be like if you never knew about Harry Potter? I'm not sure about,
to be honest,
what our relationship would be like.
That's true,
Harry Potter. I think we'd still be acquaintances, but I'm not sure how much we'd actually talk.
That's true.
I would hope that we would still be really good friends.
Yeah, we were friends before Harry Potter, because obviously I was like little, like we said before. But I feel like, I mean, first of all, it was you, like I said, who made me love Harry Potter pretty much.
Yeah.
And I feel like it is now, even just in terms of like, we don't see each other much, but when we do, it's like to go to the studio tour or to, you know, do something Potter related. It kind of...
we use Potter as an excuse to see each other. Yeah. I guess we would still want to see each other though, even if we didn't like Harry Potter.
Right, it would just, we'd probably just find other reasons to see each other. But the thing is, it's kind of embarrassing to say, but I, like, Harry Potter is such a huge part of like who I am as a person and my life.
Too.
So
me too.
I have no idea. Let me have a think about.
I think that I wouldn't be nearly as well read without Harry Potter, because the only books that I would read before Harry Potter were Japanese manga and Roald Dahl and you know, a very, very few others. But when I read Harry Potter, that kind of brought me into the world of literature. Like it helped me to realise that I'm a good reader. Like before I read Harry Potter, I was like, I'm not a good reader. Like I'm not good at reading. But now I'm like, no, you know, I've read like 7 books at least 7 times over. Like, I don't know what 7 times 7 is, but that's a lot of times.
It's 40. You know? It's 49. But,
thank you. So that means that I've read at least 49 books.
Right.
And then, like, you know, not counting the other books that I've read because of this realisation that Harry Potter gave me, that I'm good at reading.
I think that's why it's so praised as a series, because it got a whole generation of kids and generations after that, because obviously, like, maybe you a little bit, but we weren't part of the Harry Potter generation, and we still had that, you know.
I wasn't really. My brother and Roman, my husband, is in the Harry Potter generation, and technically me and Roman are in the same generation, but we're far enough apart that he would have been like the perfect age for it, and I was just a little bit behind.
Whereas I have always been quite an avid reader, and I think maybe I don't think that was particularly that's not part of why I love it, if that makes sense. I just love reading, and so I also loved this other book series.
I remember you saying when you wanted to read it from the school library, you'd already read it, but you wanted to read it at high school as well, and they wouldn't let you until you, or was it this primary school, I can't remember, but they wouldn't let you until you had read a certain amount of other books and gotten up into other levels of reading, like other reading levels, because Harry Potter was like
year 7
in the highest level. And that annoyed me so much. I was like, why wouldn't teachers just let this person read? Because like you did it happily because you're you know, as you say, a really, really good reader.
And if anything, that ruined my love for reading. It was like the opposite of what they wanted.
And I thought, like, how would this work out with a child who wasn't as good as reading as you and wanted to read Harry Potter.
Yeah. It's not a great system. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway.
What I was going to say though was I feel like this just kind of occurred to me is that kind of what you had with the books almost was how I feel about the films. Like I was never really into films before. Like I would watch films with my family, and then obviously I watched Harry Potter films and they were amazing. And now going to the studio tour so regularly, it really started my love for like props,
film
and
in general,
sets and film in general, and costumes and all the stuff that you don't think about watching a film. And now obviously I do, because I've just been to the studio tour so many times and I learn about those little things, and it's so interesting, and now I love it so much. and Harry Potter did that.
Yeah. I would love to work on a film, but I lack the necessary skills. But yeah, I'd love to just be on a film set and watch it all. I'm one of those people who, if I have the DVD, I will watch every single extra piece of information that they have. I love how they make everything, whereas my mum actively ignores it because she's like, no, it makes it not real.
Right.
And the thing how she explains her love of the studio tour is like she just ignores that they're sets and imagines that she's in the real place.
Yeah. Whereas I feel like it enhances the experience when you know. But
it's like they put so much work into it. Wow.
Yeah. And all the funny little bits, and you can be like, oh, you see that over there? That was actually that, and you know.
Yeah.
We should definitely
do
a episode or something about studio tour and like little
we should.
Props and
we
stuff.
Should.
I would
so many people ask me like advice on like going to the studio tour that I think I've put like I've definitely done like a WikiHow or something on like what is that one where you can review places? TripAdvisor. I think I might have put something on TripAdvisor like here's how you can get the most out of your experience, because like a lot of people don't know certain things that you can do to get lots out of your experience. So
number one tip is we should ask people who work there about stuff.
People
and like ask people to get stuff out and
you need to like Harry Potter to work there, so naturally they will know loads. So anyway,
okay,
your question.
All right, my question, bit of a chill one, but what is your favourite type of weather?
Oh, I like this. My favourite type of weather is sunny, but with a slightly cool breeze.
That's good. That's a nice one.
And not like baking heat.
Yeah.
Or my other favourite one, is I get really excited about this type of weather, is a really early morning autumn chill.
Ooh, okay.
And that's because every time I feel that kind of weather, I've always been doing something exciting, apart from obviously going to school or something.
Yeah.
So I feel it when I get up at 4:30 a.m. to go to Comic-Con, or to go to the studio tour, or to go go to really fun things, Halloween in the evening. It's kind of the same feeling.
That's a good one.
Yeah. I didn't know I was so passionate about the weather.
No, that's good, because it's like associated with a feeling more than just like I like the sun because it's nice and warm. And sorry if anyone's favourite weather is the sunny.
Well, I like the sun. It makes me happy when I see the sun, which is a proven thing at this point, that sun does actually make you happy.
I would probably go for like summer rain. When it's been a really hot day, like thunderstorms when it's really humid and you can just feel that there's rain coming, and then suddenly it goes from no rain to it's raining so hard, and there's that smell when the rain hits the warm floor. And it's kind of like almost a bit coppery and the sky's dark, but maybe there's still like a rainbow because I don't know, just thunderstorms, basically, I
Yes.
guess is what I'm saying. And I love just
Yeah.
running around
Especially
in
in
the
the summer,
rain.
because what you said about
Yeah.
the smell, like that will be the times where we go outside and it's just been raining, and I'll say to Roman, it smells like camping.
Yes, yeah.
There's like a camping smell because
Hmm.
we're both camping family, like we're both from camping families,
Yeah.
and there's just this such distinctive smell that is associated with camping, I find
Hmm.
anyway. Yeah, I remember
Yeah, I
one
love that.
particularly really hot day that you just reminded me of when I was working at a shop called Music Room, where we were just dying in that shop, and it just suddenly tipped it down. It was like God was like, right, here you go, and just poured a bucket on the whole of Stratford. Um, and I was like, right, I'm going out. And I went out, circled a few times around the car park just outside, and came back in again. And all of our customers left, and I dried off in like 5 seconds because it was so
Yeah,
hot.
yeah. Whenever it rains at lunchtime or anything, I always run outside, and so there are
Mhm.
always year sevens kind of like sheltering and screaming and like
Yeah.
giving us weird looks because we're all running out in the rain. But then
Yeah,
actually,
getting
I
rained on is
remember
quite fun.
it's quite fun. But one time we went out, we were on our way to English, and we'd left early to kind of make the most of it of the rain. But then it suddenly turned to hail, but it was
Oh dear.
horizontal hail hitting me in the
Oh no.
face. It was
Oh dear.
awful. It was so
Oh,
bad.
you
Um,
know, my favorite thing to do in really heavy rainstorms, and people listening, you have to try this next time it rains, is go outside with bare feet and just don't bother putting a coat on. Just go out in like mucky clothes and go and try and find a puddle that you can really sink your feet into, that you can put your feet in up to the ankles, and then just dance and walk in the rain. It's so refreshing. I haven't done that since probably since before I was married, and it is like the best feeling in the world. I love doing that.
that sounds pretty good.
Yeah, it's really
I don't
nice.
think I've ever done that.
Okay,
Okay.
cool. Alrighty, so we'll get started then with the potions master. Dun dun dun. I think all of my sections start off with me going dun dun dun.
Yeah. Get all the dramatic
Okay,
ones.
yeah. So the first thing that I noticed was that, I mean, I guess you do get this in the film, but
Hmm.
J.K. Rowling says how many staircases there are. So there's 142 staircases, which was quite oddly specific. I probably should have looked up if that meant anything, but I didn't, so we'll let that slide.
I feel like that sounds like
And
just a random big number, to be honest. I
yeah,
mean, maybe it means something,
yeah,
but that feels like just a like a 9 3/4 again, just
yeah,
out of
just
the
a
way.
random number.
Do you
Yeah.
have the bit from the book explaining the differences in all the staircases? I just think that's a really cool little bit.
Yeah, yeah. There were 142 staircases at Hogwarts, wide sweeping ones, narrow rickety ones, some that led somewhere different on a Friday, some with the vanishing step halfway up that you had to remember to jump. And then it explains more about the castle. There were doors that wouldn't open unless you asked politely or tickled them in exactly the right place. That's the kitchen door. And doors that weren't really doors at all, but solid walls just pretending.
Yeah, I feel like the I don't really know where I'm going with the sentence. I need to think about this. Just the weirdness of the castle, especially in the staircases, is something that I feel a bit sad isn't quite. I mean, there's not time to fully explore it in the films,
Yeah,
but
it's more grand in the films than
yeah,
strange.
I guess there's less in the film. That obviously in the book there's time to see them just wandering around on the
Mhm.
weekends and going to lessons.
But I guess like this is the only place that it mentions like rickety ones and some that led
That's
somewhere
true.
different on a
Yeah,
Friday. So that's interesting that she never mentions
of
that
course.
again.
Then you've got the one with the step that you have to jump that kind of
Yes,
sucks you in, which
the
crops up
thump
later on.
step. Yeah. It's very important in Goblet of Fire.
Yeah.
So then we get more Peeves goodness in the book, obviously, which is missed because he's not in the film at all. Says, Peeves the poltergeist was worth 2 locked doors and a trick staircase if you met him when you were late for class. He would drop waste paper baskets on your head, pull rugs from under your feet, pelt you with bits of chalk, or sneak up behind you, invisible, grab your nose and screech, "Got your conch!" I have never heard a nose referred to as a conch before. Have you?
It sounds familiar, but I don't know if that's just because I've read the book. But I feel like maybe like my grandpa or someone is called. I'm not sure.
It's oddly appropriate, but I don't remember hearing it. But it's so good. Yeah. I love the little like peevisms that come out every so often. Yeah. We get more of Filch, more like details of Filch. And
sorry, just a quick. Sorry, I learned this today that what's his name that plays Filch, the actor?
Oh gosh, I know this. I've met him. Oh gosh, Filch. Oh, I don't believe it. I can't.
The actor, he stayed in a cottage about a month before filming.
David Bradley.
Oh yeah. He stayed in a cottage near where they were filming about a month before to try and emulate what he imagined to be Filch's lonely lifestyle, so he could get in character, which is sad, but quite nice as well.
Really nice that he did that. Yeah, he's such a nice person, David Bradley. I think he's possibly one of the best actors in the whole thing. In my opinion, anyway. He is so perfect for Filch.
Yes.
In the description for Filch is spot on for David Bradley. Well, David Bradley's portrayal of Filch, I should say, not him actually. That'd be a bit harsh. Where does it say what he looks like? I can't remember. I can't find it now. But it's perfect anyway. It also talks about Mrs. Norris, so you don't actually hear Mrs. Norris's name in the first film.
Really?
At all.
Oh, in the first film?
Yeah, in the first film.
You do in the... Well, in the second?
I don't actually know. I don't know. I assume... Oh, yes, because of the... The petrifying...
It's Filch's cat. It's Mrs. Norris. That's what he says.
Does he?
Yeah, when he goes, "Oh no, that's Filch's cat."
Oh yes,
it's Mrs. Norris.
Yeah.
And then all the students come, weirdly all at the exact same time with all the staff.
With the Slytherin coming up randomly, just past their dungeons.
Don't fancy going to the dungeons.
Anyway, that's for another episode.
Yeah.
Okay, so we now know that it's Mrs. Norris, not just my sweet, because that's all he says in reference to Mrs. Norris is my sweet. I can't remember him saying anything else. And you also get a list of, an experience kind of the other lessons. So they have astronomy, herbology, history of magic, charms, transfiguration, and defense against the dark arts. Transfiguration is here in the film. Sorry, transfiguration is in the film, but it's different. So in the film, Harry and Ron were late to transfiguration, and McGonagall chastises them. But in the book, then they're not late to a transfiguration lesson, but it was just explained in passing. Friday was an important day for Harry and Ron. They finally managed to find their way down to the Great Hall for breakfast without getting lost once. So it's kind of... so the transfiguration was... Yeah, like in the film...
Lost.
Yeah, yeah, that was their way of like adding that in without losing much film time.
Yeah.
Which I really love. I love that scene. Professor McGonagall is so perfect, and her like transforming from the cat into her natural self. I like the little headcanon that the director must have had here with like she must like resting as a cat for some reason. Or like maybe exchange... she was like, oh, I'll surprise Harry and Ron, haha.
Yeah. And also, she's like, oh, they're coming. Okay, quick, everyone be quiet. I'm gonna be yeah. I also love the exchange between McGonagall and Ron. Oh, she transforms.
Oh, see, I have trouble with this because Ron swears in front of a teacher, and he doesn't swear in front of his own parents, like, and let alone McGonagall. She's like really strict.
Yeah.
So I don't know whether any student would have the I can't think of an appropriate word to say. Would have the guts. Thank you.
Guts. Yeah.
to swear in front of a teacher.
It's not pretty PG swearing, though, isn't it? I don't know.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, which is why they. Because it mentions in the book quite a lot Ron swearing, but it's not actually him. It's not actually swear words.
Yeah. The more I'm rereading Half-Blood Prince at the moment, and there's a bit where like Malfoy does a rude gesture at them as they pass the compartment, and throughout there's things basically saying that the teenagers are swearing. Scandalous. And it kind of went over my head when I was little, and I think that's why it's so really? Perfect, is because like if you don't understand, it just won't. Well, maybe I was a little bit. I don't know, but I just didn't quite understand it fully, and then obviously reading it, being older, it feels. I don't really, but I think it's a good way of making it realistic.
I think a lot of other people might have got this, but it is true. But like both of us have grown up in a religious background and have not been exposed to much swearing, although I don't know whether like I am guessing that quote unquote normal children aren't exposed to much swearing because I hear a lot of parents say, oh, I never swear in front of my child. But then I'm like, they must overhear some swear words. But anyway.
I think it also varies from parent to parent. Some people are just really chill with swearing. It just depends on the kid, I guess.
Yeah. But and as well, I don't know whether I would have, because I didn't read Harry Potter before I went to high school, and when I went to high school, obviously I was surrounded by swearing, and I immediately got it because I read Harry Potter when I was 13 or 14. I was like, oh, he's swearing.
Right. See, I was 8, and I think it's fair to say quite sheltered.
Yeah. And I didn't hear any swearing in primary school. I doubt you did. In fact, I remember you... Yeah, I remember you coming up to me once, saying, this is so cute, saying, Elizabeth, oh no, you would have called me Libby at that point, because my nickname used to be Libby. Libby, a girl taught me a swear today, and I was like, oh, what was it? And you showed me, and it was like the backwards peace sign swear. I don't know what that means, but if it means anything, I don't know. And I was like, okay, well, you know not to use it, don't you? Because obviously you're really young, and you're like, yes, I know. And you just kind of left it there. It was so cute.
I must have really trusted you, though, because I don't think I even told, like, my mum or anyone. It was, like, this big deal. I was like, I need to tell you something. Yeah.
You were really nervous. I could tell you were really nervous. But I think you probably, somewhere in the back of your head, you probably knew that I wouldn't like tell you off or anything. I wouldn't be angry at you because I was your like cool teenage friend, Whereas like your parents are your parents.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Even though they obviously wouldn't tell me off for that, but yeah. Anyway, we've gone on a total tangent about swearing.
Well, it's interesting from our backgrounds, especially your background, because you grew up in a religious background. you're still in a semi-religious environment, but not really. Whereas I'm still like very much in the religion. I don't swear. If you didn't know, I'm a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and it's against their religion to swear. So I've sworn the grand total of about 5 times in my whole life, and probably twice that was by accident. And probably 4 times it was accident. I can only think of once where it was actually on purpose. Oh no, twice. Anyway, yeah, so it is interesting, especially from your point of view, because I imagine, like, you never swear in front of me, and I really appreciate that, but I imagine you probably swear at school and in with your friends and stuff. So yeah, it's interesting that you would point that out.
Well, I forgot what we. Oh, yeah, Ron swears in front of McGonagall.
Yeah, Ron's swearing.
That's what we're saying.
And we've now brought us up to half an hour.
Oh wow, okay.
Yeah, but anyway, I find swearing in general a really interesting topic. Obviously.
Yeah, clearly.
Yeah. Anyway,
back to Harry Potter.
Back to Harry Potter. So, where were we? Yes, so we have all those lessons. Defense Against Dark Arts with Quirrell was interesting to read about. It says they turn out to be a bit of a joke. His classroom smelled strongly of garlic, which everyone said was to ward off a vampire he'd met in Romania. And his turban, he told them, had been given to him by an African prince as a thank you for, getting rid of a troublesome zombie. But they weren't sure they believed this story. So, yeah, and then when Seamus Finnegan asked eagerly to hear how Quirrell had fought off the zombie, Quirrell went pink and started talking about the weather. And
very British.
Interestingly enough, it says, for another, they had noticed that a funny smell hung around the turban. The Weasley twins insisted that it was stuffed full of garlic as well, so that Quirrell was protected wherever he went.
This always concerned me slightly.
Voldemort smell?
Yeah, every single time I reread that, I'm like, why was that added? Voldemort.
Like, is it because he's like breathing, or like I assume that Quirrell doesn't brush Voldemort.
I was just gonna say, I don't imagine Voldemort getting
which I think we've mentioned in the pod before, but I can't remember.
Maybe, yeah.
So
maybe it's just because he's essentially like this dead person, well, not like half dead person. That's
true. Yeah, he's living a half life. Yeah, I was going to say that maybe it's from the unicorn blood, but Quirrell drinks that for him, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah. So maybe it must be just bad breath.
Yeah.
No idea. But I mean, would he have bad breath if he doesn't eat anything? I don't know. So many questions about that. Then we have Hagrid inviting Harry round for tea, which is nice. The letter that he writes Harry is, "Dear Harry, I know you get Friday afternoons off, so would you like to come and have a cup of tea with me around 3? I want to hear all about your first week. Send us an answer back with Hedwig, Hagrid." And then Harry borrows Ron's quill, scribbled, "Yes, please, see you later," on the back of the note, and sends Hedwig off again. I like that Harry is so polite. "Yes, please." I'd have just been like, "Yeah," and then just sent that. Yeah. Okay, and then we come to potions, the whole reason for the chapter. So we get the first idea that Snape really hates Harry. It says, at the start of term banquet, Harry had got the idea that Professor Snape disliked him. By the end of the first potions lesson, he knew he'd been wrong. Snape didn't dislike Harry, he hated him. And I thought it was rather sad, much sadder than it is at first glance, because Harry is like why did Snape hate him so much? And I was like, oh, Harry doesn't even know what he's done because he hasn't actually done anything.
Yeah.
And I've always wondered why Snape is so open about his hatred towards Harry, and like so open about like his bullying to certain students. Like I was like, surely someone would have reported him by now, like one of the Gryffindors. I wonder if Dumbledore like reprimands him or something, like, dude, possibly. You've got to calm down with like your bullying.
Yeah, well, this is the thing. Well, I mean, I'm sure everyone can name a few teachers who students aren't big fans of and who get reported and it's still somehow there. But I guess also in the case of this, he has to be there, doesn't he? Well, he doesn't have to, but he is there for a reason.
He has to be with Dumbledore, so it makes sense that he's a teacher, because otherwise it would be really weird to have just this random guy
just sleeping in his office.
This is my side guy. So it's weird. The start of the potion scene is very similar. I love the scene in the films, and we'll probably do a Snape special episode. I mean,
yes,
you can't
definitely.
have a Harry Potter podcast and not do a special Snape episode. So yeah, Alan Rickman does a very good job. But one thing that always gets me is that Snape doesn't, like, Harry isn't taking notes in the book. He actually pauses at Harry when he gets to his name in the register, and that's how he notices him.
And it has the same line of our new celebrity. Yeah.
I think I actually prefer the books in this one, because in the films it makes me hate Snape even more, if that's possible. Because it's so clear that Harry is taking notes, and like he's probably listening more than any other student in the whole class.
Yeah, I guess that sets him up as more of a villain, though, doesn't it? Well, and also like he could just be doodling. I've been told.
I guess so, but like Harry, me too. Well, I did. Yeah, I guess so.
I think for the sake of, like we keep saying, for the sake of the film, I think it sets him up as even more of a horrible villain person.
Yeah.
And makes you think he's the bad guy.
Yeah, exaggerates it nicely. Then we get, in the book, a lovely bit of sassy Harry here. So Snape is like asking all these questions, and Hermione's like doing her typical raising the hand thing, and at the last question, Harry just gets so knocked that he says, "I don't know," said Harry quietly. "I think Hermione does, though. Why don't you try her?" I think this is what makes him so Gryffindor. Like, this is this like stupid bravery that I wish I had, but like I am also quite glad that I don't have, because it is so stupid of him to say that. But he's just, I love that side to Harry, as we said before. And also, it shows his chivalry towards Hermione, because at this point, Harry and Hermione aren't particularly good friends or even acquaintances yet.
Part of me feels like it's a little bit mocking, though, because a few people kind of laugh and like, you know,
I guess so. Yeah, I never saw of it like that. No, I guess so.
Depends how you read it. Anyway.
Yeah, I never read it that way. I wonder if some people have. Yeah. Neville, and then like the lesson goes on, so you actually know what happens in the lesson in the book, obviously. So in the lesson, Neville melts Seamus's cauldron, and Snape snarls, "Idiot boy," which, like...
He's not wrong.
Well, Lucy! I mean, he's not the greatest student in the world, but he's not an idiot.
He melted a cauldron. I guess
so. But he's so nervous. Like,
yeah, that's true.
I guess at this point he doesn't really have much reason to be nervous. But I guess he's nervous in general because he's like, oh no, I'm a terrible wizard.
Yeah.
Because of his
it's all internalized.
Yeah, his past.
Because of the way he's treated by his family and his gran, to be honest.
Oh gosh, yeah, it's awful. Yeah. But I mean that again just is like, Snape is just an awful teacher. And I thought it was worth pointing out that the reason why Snape hates Neville probably nearly just as much as Harry is because if Neville had been the chosen one, Lily would still be alive, probably.
Yeah.
Because I mean, I don't know whether she would be tortured.
Is that really explored in the films?
I don't think so.
So it says that you hear the prophecy, don't you? About a boy born at the end of July.
Yeah, but they don't really say Neville, I don't think. Yeah. So Neville is fits the description. Fits the prophecy. Yeah. But Voldemort chose Harry instead of Neville.
Without
and that's why Snape. Yeah. I don't know why. I think it was because I actually don't know why.
Probably because he knew of. Well, actually, that's not true because Neville's parents were also part of the Order of the Phoenix.
That's what I was going to say, and then I realised that Neville's parents were like really, really amazing in the Order, actually. Order, sorry.
Possibly.
I don't know.
Yeah, so Lily would still be alive.
Maybe it was just random.
Maybe, yeah.
Possibly tortured and mad, but alive. I don't know whether it works, whether she would have still been tortured, because obviously then they wouldn't have been in the same place as Bellatrix. Right. So maybe Neville's parents would have been tortured and then killed. I don't know. I don't know. Because I don't know whether Neville's parents were tortured after Harry's parents died or before. I don't know. It's all messy.
Must have been before because I don't know. I think it must have been before.
Yeah, I think so. Because I think it happened like right in the middle of the wars.
Yeah.
That would make sense to me. Yeah. But anyway, that's why Snape hates Neville. If anyone wanted to know. Snape blames Harry for Neville's bad potion, which just terrible.
And loses another house point, doesn't he? Well, because earlier he lost one for cheek.
Yes, that's another point you've lost for Gryffindor.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess he gets more and more extreme in his punishments because he only takes 1 point off here each time, whereas I think if this happened in like the 4th or 5th, he'd take off like 10.
Have you seen that kind of comic that I can't remember if you sent it to me, or maybe I sent it to you, or maybe I just saw it somewhere else, of Harry like at the beginning of the year being really worried about the fact that he's lost 2 house points, and at the end of like book 6 he loses loads of points and he's just like, I don't care.
No, I haven't seen that. That sounds funny.
Yeah, I think it's really cute that at the beginning he's so worried about. He's like, I lost 2 more points for Gryffindor, and 2 points literally do not matter. Like I guess technically if he hadn't have lost those points, then they would have. Oh no, they were in last place. Yeah.
Yeah, it wouldn't have made any difference.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, it wouldn't have made any difference anyway because Dumbledore was like, Gryffindor's winning this time.
Yeah.
This uses Harry as an excuse.
Yeah.
Okay, and then they visit Hagrid's hut, and Harry introduces Ron, which I said to you before we started this that I was going to watch the film, and I blimming haven't. But I am pretty sure that in the film, it's just kind of like Ron just magically knows who Hagrid is and is magically friends with him.
Whereas they're never introduced.
Yeah.
Which makes sense because it would be a pointless conversation, really. It
would be. Whereas they're formally introduced in the book. He says, "This is Ron," Harry told Hagrid, who was pouring boiling water into a large teapot and putting rock cakes onto a plate. "Another Weasley, eh?" said Hagrid, glancing at Ron's freckles. "I spent half my life chasing your twin brothers away from the forest." Yeah. I thought that was a nice little detail as well, and I was like, why do the twins want to go to the forest so bad?
Yeah.
It reminds me of like them wanting to go
can't.
into. Yeah, I think so, and I think they were like. It reminds me of wanting to go into Nocturne Alley, but then I remembered that they wanted to go to Nocturne because they wanted some ingredients. Was that, or am I making that up?
That was probably the motivation.
Yeah, I wonder if they were like slowly starting to develop Weasley's Wizard Wheezes even now. So maybe that was their thinking.
Probably.
I don't
know. Probably like a dream, you know.
Yeah,
like a goal.
Some early canary creams, perhaps.
Perhaps.
Hagrid's rock cakes nearly break their teeth.
Can we just let's just take a moment to appreciate how amazing rock cakes are. I love rock cakes.
Yes,
so much.
I love rock cakes.
They're so good.
Did you make them in year 7 at high school?
Like in food tech? I don't think so.
Oh, because in my high school,
because you did. I was like, where did you get that information from? Okay, no, I didn't.
Is that why it took you so long to respond?
Yeah, I was like, how would you know whether I did or not? No.
Well, I did, and like pretty much every year 7 in my school makes rock cakes as like their first bake.
Mm-hmm. You made a fruit salad. How awful
we made a fruit salad as well. That's every single person I know made fruit salad in year 7 at high school, which is, if you didn't know, first year of high school in England. I just wanted to point out the rock cakes that break their teeth, because I was like, rock cakes are notoriously easy to make. That's why
I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, that's why they're usually the first lesson you have in food tech in England, at least in my school. I don't know about other schools, but like they're like it's really easy scones.
Kids baking thing.
Yeah, like it's literally kids baking. Yeah. And then I thought, does he make them purposefully like that? Because that's the way he likes them, because he's half giant and he has stronger teeth.
Oh, I never even thought about that. Quite possibly.
Yeah.
Because giants like eat rocks, don't they? Like actual rocks.
I think so. Yeah.
So maybe this is his like halfway of like human and giant rock cakes, but like actual rocks.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie, I do love quite a crispy rock cake. So
yeah, rock cakes have to be rock cakes. Yeah. Hagrid calls Filch that old git, which is just perfect. And I thought it was odd yet kind of fitting that Hagrid would dislike another member of staff, but then again, like, he's mean to the students, but Filch is mean to the students, and Hagrid is like very fiercely nice to the students in particular. And everyone really. So yeah, I found that quite funny, because he's like one that always defends Snape as well. So I was like, funny that he wouldn't defend Filch. That's how
I guess it's just his fierce loyalty to Dumbledore. Like, I don't think Dumbledore's going around saying, I trust Filch, I trust him with my life, you know.
That's true.
Not, yeah.
Yeah. We're just like, well, he's the only person who's willing to do this job.
Yeah.
Going to be the caretaker at a school full of magical teenagers.
Yeah.
Hagrid knows why Snape hates Harry, but he doesn't tell him. So
how much do you think at this point Hagrid knows? Like what?
I don't know, because Hagrid he's really old, because I think giants age differently to humans. I can't remember how old he is, but he was already gameskeeper when that generation was at school.
Right. Well, he went to school with Voldemort.
Yeah, exactly. So he must be at least 70.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he must be 60, 70 at this point. That's a good point. I didn't remember that. He went to school with Voldemort. So yeah, so he must have seen some of the stuff that went on, because like he does get involved with some students. I can see the Marauders being quite chummy with Hagrid as well.
Yeah.
Like Fred and George, like loads of students are chummy with Hagrid. But
so he probably knows about the bullying, but maybe not about all the other stuff.
The extent of the bullying, and yeah.
But also, wonder, like, part of the reason he hates Harry is because he like is alive and Lily isn't, and all that stuff. Like how much to that extent does he know about that?
I see. You know? Yeah, that's true.
Probably. I mean, I'm gonna say none of it.
Yeah, I don't think so, because I was like, well, if Snape was perhaps less of a dark teenager, like in the dark arts kind of dark, he might have been friends with Hagrid, because he was an outcast, and usually Hagrid kind of, I would imagine Hagrid would take on outcasts quite regularly, and so I could imagine like a young Snape confiding in Hagrid, but I could not imagine Snape as he is confiding in Hagrid.
Yeah, that's very true.
Yeah. Because, like, he would have seen Hagrid as a filthy half-breed, probably. I mean, I hope he wouldn't now. But I think he probably did when he was a teenager.
Yeah, definitely.
Because Voldemort would have.
Right.
Yeah. So, yeah, he probably knows nothing. In conclusion... Here, the article about the break-in at Gringotts is mentioned, and in the film, they kind of mention it. They mention it at the Great Hall. I should have done my research. Whoops.
It's during breakfast,
yes,
I think.
Yeah. But here it's in Hagrid's hurt, and Harry just kind of glances at it and starts to read it, and it says, Gringotts break-in latest. Investigations continue into the break-in at Gringotts on 31st of July, widely believed to be the work of dark wizards or witches unknown. Gringotts goblins today insisted that nothing had been taken. The vault that was searched had in fact been emptied the same day. But we're not telling you what was in there, so keep your noses out if you know what's good for you, said a Gringotts spokesgoblin this afternoon. And then Harry kind of was like, oh my gosh, that's crazy. And Hagrid definitely didn't meet Harry's eyes this time, because Harry was like, oh, that must have been happening while we were there. Like, that was on the day. And obviously it didn't happen while we were there, because we all know, in fact, even me and you know, that it was the same vault. Yeah. So I assume that, I don't know, I think Quirrell tried to do it after it had already been emptied, and obviously failed because it was empty.
Pretty basic
and
stuff.
I wonder if he actually failed because it was emptied, or he failed before getting to that point. I feel like it was probably before.
I think before. And I think they were like, don't worry, it's fine. And anyway, there wasn't anything in there anyway, even if he had done it.
Yeah.
That's probably what happened.
And then I wanted to talk about all the questions that Harry had in his head when Harry and Ron walked back to the castle for dinner. So the questions are, had Hagrid collected that package just in time? Where was it now?
Yes.
And did Hagrid know something about Snape that he didn't want to tell Harry?
Yes.
Yeah. Which I like all these questions because it alludes to Harry being a child detective of sorts. And B, why does Hagrid not tell Harry why Snape hates him? Because as a 11-year-old Harry, would have loved to know that information, because it would make me feel a lot better about the situation.
That's true.
And there's like nothing like weird about telling that, like, oh, he hates you. Oh, actually, maybe he was because he didn't want Harry to feel badly about his dad.
Oh, possibly.
I just realised.
Feel guilty. Yeah.
Yeah, like he does later on.
Yeah, and rightly so. No,
Yeah.
we should have a James Potter episode because I've got some opinions on that man.
I do not like James. Well, no, scratch that. I don't like young James. I really like James in general, but I don't like young James.
We'll save it for the episode, yeah.
Anyway, yeah.
Okay, so then let's move on to flying lessons.
Nice sound effect.
So, at the beginning of this section, Harry lets us, the reader, know. I don't know why I'm speaking like a GCSE English essay, but Harry hates Draco more than he hates Dudley, which I see. I think that he almost, Dudley, it's more of a kind of disdain, he's kind of slightly repulsed by him almost.
Yeah, I found this quite interesting because Draco gives Harry verbal bullying, whereas Dudley gives Harry physical bullying.
Interesting.
And all of my bullying. No, most of my bullying. Sorry, scratch that.
Dear.
Was sorry. I don't want to bring it down. The physical was not anything bad. Don't feel sorry for me on that part. But the bullying that really got to me was always the verbal, like mental,
like psychological
bullying.
Kind of.
Yeah. So I think, like, at least for me, and I think people who have been bullied would probably agree, that you'd almost prefer to be physically bullied than mentally bullied, because mentally gives you the scars that last a lot longer than physical scars. Yeah, I mean, it obviously you need to think of the extent of the bullying in question.
Right.
But in Harry's situation, I know I would rather have Dudley's version of bullying than Draco's.
Yeah, Draco's like smarter about it, and that's why it's worse.
Yeah, it's so personal. That's why like people hate Umbridge more than Voldemort, because Umbridge is so personal, whereas Voldemort is just like, death to everyone, blah blah blah.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Yeah. He just kills everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Harry's also nervous for flying lessons because it's with Slytherin. He says, "Typical. Just what I always wanted, to make a fool of myself on a broomstick in front of Malfoy," which is a valid concern.
Yeah, definitely.
I hate when I had to do PE. I hated PE because I was like, I'm gonna look like an idiot trying to hit a ball or catch a ball or throw a ball or jump over that.
Especially in sports. Like, did you ever do like trampolining in school?
Yes, and you had to like get over the horse.
Like all the people's like spotters around the trampoline.
Yes. Oh, I was thinking of like little trampoline, but yeah. Oh my gosh, I forgot about trampolining.
I mean, trampolining was my favourite, but it was really daunting having all those people like looking at you. Bad.
See, trampolining actually I quite liked because most of the lesson you were stood around a trampoline chatting with
and it was
friends.
Fun. Like trampolining is a fun sport, I think.
Right, but not when you've got a bunch of other guys your age looking up your sport. So I fully empathise with. And imagine like your bully being there too.
Oh, yeah.
Imagine that. And but it's worse. It's worse than trampolining. You're on a magical broomstick.
That's like awful. I know Harry is half-blood, but at this point, let's be honest, he's an acting Muggle-born. Yeah. So that would be just awful.
Awful. Yes. I almost wish they'd have split it up in like the classes, split it into like Muggle-borns, people who come from wizarding families, because some of these kids have flown before.
That's a good point.
I think that would make more sense.
Like in normal high school where they do like levels of like lower and higher.
Right.
And then they would be able to explain it differently.
Right. Yes. I only just thought of that, but that would have been so much better. But I guess you wouldn't have this whole scene, would you? So that wouldn't have worked.
Yeah.
We're introduced to the idea of flying in the Wizarding community a bit more through the other students. These are a few of those times. Malfoy boasts about flying a lot. He tells long stories which, quote, always seem to end with him narrowly escaping muggles in helicopters. Which
so true, Malfoy. Really, really true.
Yeah. And those are the kind of stories that kids, when you're younger in secondary school, tell a lot.
Oh yeah, I definitely told some of those. I lied a lot in childhood.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I like in conversations, I liked to be the winner, like the person who came out as like the most impressive. Or even like
my situation
in like sad situations, like
yes, I was just about to say
my situation is the worst.
yeah.
Whereas I'm like now I'm like no, I'd rather boast about being happy. Thank you very much.
Right? Yeah. Ron and Dean also argue about football and why it's interesting. Ron, I'm with you on that one. Ron pokes Dean's poster. He's trying to make the players move because he's just baffled by the idea of a photograph that is still. Which I find, I love because obviously you see all these Muggleborns experiencing wonder and disbelief at the Wizarding world, but I also love all these moments of Wizarding kids being completely baffled by like Muggle
trains
stuff.
And
yeah, it's a really cool kind of role reversal.
Neville, I like that too.
Neville had never been on a broomstick because his grandmother never let him because he's so accident prone, which
that just sets him up for more failure. It's so annoying.
yeah
So at least get him some practice, like
sure, or like one of those little sense. Kid brooms maybe like Harry has.
Don't remind me of that. Move on.
And Hermione is very nervous about flying lessons and she tries to learn about it from a book, which of course is just impossible.
I love those like little bits. J.K. Rowling does that a lot where she just kind of lists different accounts of things.
Do you think sorry.
No, it's fine. I was just about to say whereas in the film it's like they're flying now.
Yeah.
And it's just like, oh, okay.
Which makes sense because how it would just be a bunch of kids sat around talking, which isn't very interesting visually.
Yeah, it doesn't translate to film well.
Do you think Hermione was reading Quidditch Through the Ages?
Ooh,
we don't know of any
probably.
other Quidditch books.
I don't think so.
There might be like just simple kind of flying. She probably went to the library and just took everything out on flying. Flying for dummies. Yeah. So then Neville gets his Remembrall during breakfast, and Malfoy snatches it out of his hand, but he can't do much because, quote, Professor McGonagall, who could spot trouble quicker than any teacher in the school, was there in a flash. Scowling, Malfoy dropped the Remembrall back on the table. Just looking, he said, and he sloped. And he sloped away with Crabbe and Goyle behind him. What does that mean?
He's like when you're kind of slightly embarrassed and ashamed and you're just like hands in your pockets like punch back. That's what I imagine.
All right. And then we have the flying lesson, which is very similar to the book. There are obviously some differences, as always. Ron, first of all, doesn't get smacked in the face, which I personally love.
Yeah, I was just about to say I have difficulty with this because I find it so hilarious in the film. Like his timing. Rupert Grint is such a great comedic actor. Like, that timing is brilliant.
Shut up, Harry.
The same time, like he's a pureblood. He wouldn't like.
Yeah, he's flown before.
Yeah, he wouldn't have that difficulty with flying.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say possibly it's the school's dodgy school brooms. You know how when you have to use the school's stuff, it's always a bit dodgy, but the Weasleys don't have the
Harry has no problem with it. And it's totally implied that he has no problem with it because he's very confident in his saying, and I don't see any reason why Ron would not be confident in this environment.
That's true. That's true. Maybe he is a bit nervous because he feels like he's standing next to Harry Potter and he wants to
or because
be cool.
of Draco like saying all of these, because like he kind of brags himself in response to Draco.
Yeah,
I seem to remember.
Yeah, so he wants to prove it. So maybe he is actually really nervous.
Yeah, that's true. I guess like in the mirror chapter, he sees himself as Quidditch captain. So maybe he's like, I've got to do that. I've got to be great.
I've got to be amazing. I've got to be as good as all my brothers.
Yeah,
he's probably got that kind of hanging over him because beside Percy and Charlie, or maybe were they all on the Quidditch team besides Percy?
Charlie was definitely on the Quidditch team because he was one of the best.
Oh yeah, was it
had.
Bill then that wasn't?
I think. I mean, he might have been, but he wasn't mentioned as being on the Quidditch team.
But most of his older brothers are amazing at Quidditch, so he's obviously got a lot of pressure. So then this is where Neville goes off the ground in some manner in both the book and the film. In the book, he pushed himself off the ground. It wasn't accidental, because he was worried he'd be left on the ground and everyone else would fly off, which I love in the book, this little detail, but I don't know how they would have conveyed that in the film.
Yeah, me neither. That's what I thought.
So I think it works perfectly, him just kind of lazily floating upward.
Shakily. I think I remember his feet like kind of kind of.
Yeah. Have you seen the behind the scenes of that with the big crane lifting him up?
As soon as you said that, I was like, no, I haven't. But when you mentioned a crane, I think I have seen that. Yeah.
It's like a big blue crane.
Yeah.
So of course his accidental flight wasn't nearly as dramatic in the book. He just flew 20 feet into the air and then fell off his broom, which drifted lazily towards the Forbidden Forest and out of sight. Although, I was thinking about this earlier, 20 feet is still quite high to fall from.
It's quite a height, yeah.
I'm trying to think about for reference. Well, an 11-year-old is probably about 5 feet, right? Maybe a bit less. Depends on the 11-year-old.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm thinking myself back in high school, I'm 5'2", and most of the year 7s were my height. So probably around 5 foot, maybe just under.
So it's like he's falling like 4 of him, which is quite a lot.
Yeah.
Obviously, though,
it is quite a lot.
It's in the film. It's a lot more dramatic and cinematic as well. Also, I think I might have told you this before, but just while we're talking about measurements, in the book, J.K. Rowling wanted to write all the measurements in the imperial system, and when it was being published, the editors or the publishers,
I know what you're going to say.
Okay, I'll say it again. They were like, no, you've got to you've just got to convert it all into metric. And she was like, no, it's in imperial for a reason. And there was some regulation about books having measurements in the metric system because we'd converted to metric. And obviously she wanted it imperial, so it was a bit quirky and kind of weird. But eventually it is in feet, as we see. So I think like as well that kind of reflects English education system. I don't know what it is like for you now, but when I was in high school, I was taught in every single system all at the same time. Oh dear.
And it was so confusing. Yeah, it was really confusing. Like some questions would be about from one system, other questions would be about other system. Like one question would be about like this car drove 10 feet, blah blah blah, and then it would be like Johnny walked 3 meters, and it's like, which one do I need to know?
I was always taught, at secondary school it was always metric.
They probably perfected it before you got.
But when I was in end of year 4 and year 5, obviously I was living in Shanghai, and it was quite Americanized, the school system there, because it was an international school, and so I was learning in feet and inches, and it took me a really long time when we moved back to readjust. Like I didn't know how many meters were in a centimetre and how many this was and that for ages. And obviously everyone else just knew that because they, you know, I'd almost missed that little chunk.
Well, you can be safe in the knowledge that I never knew and I still don't because it was just so weird in my education. I wonder if any more other 95 babies can relate to that. Oh yeah, I was going to say in reference to Neville's flight. I think obviously, as we've said, like both versions of the event work in their own medium, but I would have loved in the film if they had like the broom lazily drifting off. I love that that image, like maybe when Madame Hooch was like taking him to the
just pan
hospital,
around
to,
like...
yeah. And it kind of, when I was envisioning this, I actually wrote this in my doc today, and I was envisioning the bit in Prisoner of Azkaban when Aunt Marge is still like screaming and floating in the background.
As it goes on. I wonder
if
Neville's broom is, you know, hanging out with the Ford Angula, making a little tribe.
Oh, maybe they're like a weird couple.
Listen, love's love. We can't judge. So then Parvati stands up for Neville when Malfoy makes fun of him, which I think is... I like that obviously this would be harder in the film to consistently mention characters, but I like that in the book the recurring characters are more reoccurring rather than just being thrown in like when they need to
the other 5 Gryffindors that she mentions, or I guess 10.
It's like what's it called? Before the book was written, there was the original 40 or something. I can't remember what the word is, but she had a list of these 40 students.
She knew she would want to write like lines for
to just throw in
like
every now and then, which I think is a nice little touch. Malfoy then suggests putting the Remembrall in a tree in the book rather than in the film, where he says, "How about on the roof?"
When I read this, I don't know why, but I kind of laughed and I was like, that sounds silly, because in my head I have "how about on the roof" like so ingrained in my head. And then Harry obviously chases after him, but in the book he doesn't catch the Remembrall in front of McGonagall's office, as is seen in the film. He performs a Wronski feint, which is that what Victor Crumb does at the Quidditch World Cup? So and it's known to be like one of the most difficult things of all time, and Harry just is like
accidentally literally doesn't even know what it is, he just kind of does it. And McGonagall...
he's like, I guess I'll just dive towards the ground now. Got to get that Remembrall. What is it worth? Like 2 sickles?
So just while we're talking about it, I guess a Wronski feint is when you dive towards the ground, pretending you've seen the snitch, and then at the last second pull up away from the ground so that the other seeker follows you, ideally, and then
hopefully smashes into the ground, which is a bit harsh.
Which is a brutal game. McGonagall in the book just happens to be outside, and she says, "Never in all my time at Hogwarts." And Harry thinks this is it. He's going to be expelled. He's going home. This is the end of his magical life.
Well, it was a nice couple of months.
McGonagall takes him to Charms class and asks for wood. She asks for Oliver Wood, whereas in the film it's Defense Against the Dark Arts class, and Harry thinks, was wood a cane she was going to use on him? Which if she goes, "Hi Professor, could I have wood please?" I'd be like, "Excuse me."
I would totally think that. I'd be like, "Oh no, we're in a castle. Does that mean that they like perform medieval like like Victorian punishment?"
I quite like in the film that it's Defense Against the Dark Arts, because I like that it's just another instance to see Quirrell and to get used to him just being around as like just a normal teacher.
It's not important that it's Charms.
Right. In the book it's easier, I guess, to have him around a bit more, so it's not as needed, but I like that in the film, you see him in that instance.
I agree.
Oliver then suggests getting a decent broom for Harry rather than... It's kind of suggested that McGonagall does it on her own accord in the film. He suggests a Nimbus 2000 or a clean sweep 7, I'd say. McGonagall then...
I still don't get why McGonagall wasn't like, okay, Potter, order your broom.
Yeah.
Like, instead of using the school funds...
Right, yeah.
For Harry, who is, like, incredibly rich.
Yes, yeah.
Like, he could have bought a broom like that.
Does that say that in the book, that she uses the school's funds?
I don't know, like, it's not said where this comes from. Like, maybe she used her own funds, but I doubt it.
I don't know, though, because my art teacher in year 11, she would, like, buy us art supplies out of her own money because she was, like, so determined that we were gonna do well because she quite liked some of us. So maybe she's, like, being nice and being a bit...
Yeah, I would feel a bit better about that than...
Or possibly it's just, she just didn't even ask him and just was like, he won't miss, a couple of galleons here or there.
Yeah.
McGonagall then is the one to tell Harry that his father was an excellent Quidditch player, which in the film, does he... What happens is Hermione
Harry is really nervous and is talking to Ron, and then he's like, I'm afraid that I'm going to make a fool of myself, and then Hermione runs up.
You won't make a fool of yourself. It's in your blood.
It's in your blood.
Okay, I forgot about that. Yeah, and then they run over to the trophy little plaque thing and see James Potter.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. All right. I remember that.
I like McGonagall doing it, saying that much more because it's like, why would Hermione be even like... I know she's a know-it-all, but it's a bit strange.
How would she know? Yeah. Like, just studying random trophies.
Doesn't it say in the film, like... am I making this up, that Ron says she knows more about you than you do or something?
Yeah, I think...
Maybe that's in the book.
No, I think that's in the film. I think he goes like, blimey, Harry. Oh, I think that's at a different bit, but yeah.
He says blimey Harry a lot.
I'm pretty sure he does say, blimey Harry, she knows more about you than you do. That sounds very familiar.
I think
I'm not exactly sure when, but he definitely says that. And then, obviously in the film... McGonagall is the one that tells him that he is the youngest Seeker in a century. Harry is talking about it, and he goes, according to McGonagall, as they're walking down the hallway. But in the book, Wood tells him, and it's said in the same way. Harry just says, Wood told me, which I don't. This bit confuses me a little bit because the film.
How would Wood know?
Oh yeah, I guess so. I was just going to say, because in the film so much is lifted directly from the book, so why not just say according to Wood,
it would be really
or Wood
easy
told me instead of according to McGonagall? It just seems very strange to me.
I don't know whether they were like, J.K. Rowling, why would
this... Yeah, that's true.
Wood. No.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess Wood is a very knowledgeable about
Quidditch.
Quidditch in general, but it still is a bit weird.
Yeah.
Why would a woodchuck?
How much wood would a woodchuck chuck? A woodchuck could chuck wood. We need to make a tongue twister about Oliver Wood. How much wood?
How much would use to make a broom if a wood could make a broom? I know, that's really bad. That's really terrible.
Anyway, yeah. Well. We can open with that next time. our best Oliver Wood tongue twister.
Yeah. That's our homework.
Yeah. And then Fred and George.
I wonder which other young Seekers were at Hogwarts.
Do you think his dad... Anyway, yeah.
Pardon?
Do you think his dad was...
I think his dad was a chaser, wasn't he?
Yes, yeah. In the film, he's a Seeker, isn't he?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Very true. So in the film, Fred and George tease Harry a bit. They're
really mean.
What really? What did they say?
Like,
I can't remember. I need to.
They're
watch
like break a leg or an arm, but
that's
in the fourth one.
But yeah, they're like brutal. They're basically just winding him up about how horrific.
Yeah, and he says, people get well in a month or two or something.
Yeah, but
I really want to know what that quote is now.
They're just kind of winding him up basically and trying to get him worried about how dangerous the game is. But in the book, they're kind of happy for him and give him a bit of advice. Well done, said George. I always feel very strange kind of segueing into quotes. Anyway, this is a quote. Well done, said George in a low voice. Wood told us. We're on the team too. Beat us. I tell you, we're going to win that Quidditch Cup for sure this year, said Fred. We haven't won since Charlie left, but this year's team is going to be brilliant. You must be good, Harry. Wood was almost skipping when he told us.
Oh, that's so nice. Yeah, I found it, by the way. Okay. I found what they say in the film. It says, rough game Quidditch. Brutal. No, but no one's died in years. Someone will vanish occasionally, but they'll turn up in a month or two.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
That would have been so off on your end, but we were saying that at the same time for me. So, you know.
I don't know what I prefer, because I like that Fred and George are really, really kind to him.
They're almost a bit older brothery, aren't they?
Yeah,
which is really sweet.
It's nice. Yeah, but in the film, it's like they're more true characters. Like, no, I guess it's their jokey characters, whereas in the book, more true characters.
Like we said with Hermione and Ron, it's like the archetype that's created for each character for the sake of
exaggerated.
Ease. Yeah. So in the film, they're jokers, so they are making jokes, which I think makes sense for the sake of a 2-hour film. Or I don't know what the first one is, but yeah. Malfoy also, like Harry earlier, thinks that Harry's going to get expelled. Having a last meal, Potter, is what he says to him in the Great Hall. Sassy Harry, though, is back, and he says, "You're a lot braver now you're on the ground and you've got your little friends with you," Harry said coolly.
I love little friends in reference to Crabbe and Goyle. Your gigantic friends.
Your absolutely massive, terrifying friends. I was going to say traumatizing.
Your bodyguards.
Friends. Yeah, bodyguards. And then Malfoy challenges Harry to a duel, but that, my dear friend, is for another episode.
Sorry, I'm really excited for the midnight duel.
It is. I mean, yeah. Well,
it's completely useless in the I can see why they didn't include it, but I love it in the book.
But yeah, that's for another episode, like I said. All right, now let's go on a little adventure and explore the Marauders map. So, last time I was talking about the exterior of Hogwarts, the model that they made, but I didn't really go properly into some of the other locations, so I'm just going to quickly do that now because there are a few things I missed out. So the stairway to the Great Hall where McGonagall welcomes the first years is the stairway to the Great Hall at Christ Church College, which is nice. And I've
been there. Have you been there?
No.
That's in Oxford, right?
Yeah, I believe so.
If you go on a Harry Potter tour in Oxford, which highly recommend everyone, me and Roman went on a Harry Potter tour in Oxford as a date, and this one in particular was just like, I was like, I'm there. Mm-hmm. Like it's so cool.
Yeah, because it's really the Great Hall as well was the kind of biggest influence of the Great Hall at Hogwarts. Yes. It's almost entirely. It's almost like the.
It's like a miniature version of
I think
the Great
it's. Well, in the book I was reading, it said they increased it by like 1.5, but I don't know if you'd say it's bigger than that.
When you go to the college, you can, like, if you go at the right time, you can go around the hall as well, because they use the hall for lunchtime, so obviously you can't go when they're eating. And it's very cramped, if I believe rightly, there are only 2 or 3 tables. I can't remember. I think there were 3.
Yeah.
And I don't remember it being as long either. But I can see the resemblance. The resemblance is really close.
Yeah. So the Great Hall was a set that was built for the films right from the first one. And yeah, it was heavily based on the Christchurch College Great Hall.
And the orientation is different from the book, isn't it? Or something. I always have trouble envisioning the orientation because it always says Harry walked past the other tables to get to the Gryffindor table. So I'm like, either the door wasn't in the middle, which really messes my mind because I'm really OCD about things being central, or they're all horizontal. So and the Gryffindor table is at the front of the hall, and he has to go past. I don't know. It always messes with my mind when she describes it in the book.
I don't know what you mean, to be honest. But
well, in the book it always says Harry quickly walked past all of the tables and to get to the Gryffindor one, to hide himself from all the other students. Yeah. And if it was in the middle, if
you
it's
mean the sorting hat?
Like just in general when he's going into the Great Hall, like for lunch and tea and stuff. He and in the film, it would only be one table which is next to the Gryffindor one because in the film the Gryffindor table is. Or is it one of the middle ones?
I think the location of the house tables just like shifts around throughout the films.
Yeah,
I'm not sure where. In the first one, it's if you're stood at the staff table, it's like in the middle but to the left.
Oh, is it? I thought it was to the right. Oh no, the staff table, to the left.
But it swaps around, I think, throughout the films.
Yeah.
For the sake of
so
different shots.
You would only have to walk past either one or none of the tables, whereas in the book it says I'm pretty sure it says that he walks past all of them to get to the Gryffindor one or the other tables or something. Anyway, I don't know.
I don't think I had that concern, but I think I understand what you mean.
Okay.
But, yeah. Speaking of walking across floors. York stone flagstones were used for the floor because it was drawable basically, and then you didn't have to use it for another 6 films,
thousands of people, all
the extras, and it was quite a big expense, but it obviously it paid off. Speaking of your thing about doors as well, at different parts, there were doors that were disguised as like in the wood panelling on the sides to make it easier for the extras to enter and exit the set.
That's so cool! I didn't know that.
Because you walk through a door to the side, don't you? When at the studio tour.
Yeah, you walk
when you go in. Yeah, when you go in you do, but when you have to leave the set.
Oh, when you have to leave, it's off to the left. But isn't that like between the panelling and the teacher's table? So I think they just kind of make a hole there anyway.
Yeah, possibly. But we should next time we have to ask about that because I only found out about that today.
That is so cool.
Okay. I need to remember.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that's a cool little detail.
I love that.
And then for the exterior shots of Hogwarts, Alnwick Castle was used in the Philosopher's Stone. It's seen during the flying lessons, and when Hermione, this isn't in this section, but when Hermione storms past the boys after charms, and so it's where you see most of the areas of them kind of wandering around between lessons.
Annick plays quite a big role. I've been there as well. You can tell that most of my holidays as a child and as an adult revolve around Harry Potter. Yeah, but I went there as well, and when I was there, I had one of my worst memories Well, I mean, not worst memories because obviously I've been bullied, but it really annoys me every time I think about Alnwick Castle because they had like a Hagrid and a Filch there. And I must have told you about this. I don't know. Because I rant about this every time somebody mentions Alnwick. So they would do...
It's called... how do you say it?
Alnwick. Is it not Alnwick?
A-N-R... Like, Alnwick. That's really strange. It's spelled A-L-N-W-I-C-K.
Yeah.
Right.
Let me Google it.
Like, I mean, Worcestershire and
like, how do
all the weird English names.
Pronounce Alnwick Castle? Yeah, it's Alnwick.
Alnwick.
Yeah, so when we went, there was a Hagrid and a Filch. Obviously, not the real ones. Like not
like a person dressed up.
People dressed up, and they were doing like a little like funny show, like a skit in one of the courtyards where they put like plastic tables for the children. And so my mum was like, "Oh, look how fun! Let's watch," because we'd obviously watched the films by this point. And so I had a little ice cream in my hand, and Hagrid was like, "Can I have any volunteers for this next part?" And obviously I was like, "Me!" And they picked me because I was like leaning forward, I was so desperate. And usually I get picked for things because I am a very small person, and usually I am mistaken for being a lot younger than I actually am. So I'm usually picked for things when I was when I was younger. And they were saying like, "Oh, we're going to make you into a magical person." And he, being Hagrid, reaches over to one of the tables and picks up some salt. I know, just wait for it. And I was looking at my parents, like I didn't notice that he picked up salt. I was looking at my parents like, "Hey, look, I'm being picked," like, and they were like motioning like, "Eat your ice cream, eat your ice cream."
Oh no.
Yeah, and I was like, "What? Why?" Because I'm the kind of person that stays, like, if I have a nice treat, I eat it as slowly as possible because I'm like, I want this to last forever, basically, because it's such a nice ice cream. And they were like, "Eat it, eat it." I was like, "No, why?" Hagrid then says, "Open your mouth and I'll put this magic powder on your tongue and then you will turn magical." And I was like, "No, I know it's salt." Like, I didn't see him take it, but it was in one of those like cone shaped, like typical salt shakers.
Yeah.
I was like, I know I'm a kid, but I'm not stupid. I know it's salt, so I refused. He then like pretty much just like tries to like, he touched my head and tried to like tip my head back, which I remember it being very violent, but I'm sure it wasn't because, you know, he was in a very public place.
A professional, yeah.
But I remember it being very volatile. And I was still like refusing to open my mouth. I was like, "I am not letting you pour salt into my mouth, good sir. Thank you very much." And this whole time my parents were like, "Eat your flipping ice cream." Like, violently like, "Eat it." And I was like, "No, I'm not eating my ice cream." And Hagrid like dumps loads of salt into my ice cream. And I was like, "What?" Like I had like a good 3/4 of the ice cream left, and I was like horrified. And he was like, "There, when you eat it, you'll be a magical person." I don't think he wanted to say which, but he was like, "When you'll be a magical person." I went and sat down, and I was horrified. And my parents did not get me a new ice cream. Nor did the people at the thing, because I think they were like, "Just lick it and get it over with, and then you'll be able to have the rest of it." But I was like, "Ew, no." It's salty. But yeah. Anyway, that's my little anecdote about Alnwick Castle.
An anecdote.
Nice. Yeah, and to top it all off, my dad was furiously taking pictures, like click, 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 click away the whole time. But at the end of the day, because I was like, oh, you know, my dad will have like evidence of this, like. But at the end of the day, he opened his camera and he's like, "You'll never believe this." And my mum was like, "Don't say it. Don't say it. Don't you dare say it." And he was like, "I didn't put film in the camera."
Oh my gosh.
So we have no pictures or anything. And I was like,
oh no.
That was my evidence. I was like, screw the Harry Potter pictures. That was my evidence. And put yourself in my ice cream.
Oh my goodness.
Anyway.
What? That baffles me.
I know.
Why did he put salt in your ice cream?
I mean, why would he try and force me to open my mouth?
Was the whole bit, like the skit, like ha ha ha, magic powder, oh no, surprise, it's salt?
I don't. They never said that it was salt, but he then obviously put it on the table and kind of like, I can't really remember, but I think he just very obviously put it on the table and just kind of smirked at the audience, kind of thing.
Right.
Because the audience, like, I imagine, obviously I said I didn't see him take the salt off the table, but I imagine that he probably did the same thing when he took the salt off the table, because like he doesn't just randomly carry salt in his Hagrid jacket. Yeah.
Wow, that sounds
and like, why would that be funny anyway? Like, no, I don't remember anyone laughing. And my parents were just like, eat your ice cream. They were just like so horrified that they would be doing this. Anyway.
Wow.
So yeah.
Okay. All right.
Sorry about that.
So then, Laycock Abbey is the place that they use for a lot of the interior. I was like internal since I'm right. Interior shots, like the corridors.
Another beautiful one.
And and some courtyard scenes. I have been to Laycock Abbey actually. I have an ice cream story about Laycock Abbey.
Oh, really?
It's not as interesting. But basically, we got ice cream there, and you could eat. This is so boring, but I'm just going to tell you anyway. I might have already told you. You could either get a scoop of ice cream or a half scoop of ice cream, and obviously I was like, I don't want a half scoop of ice cream. I'm going to get a scoop of ice cream. But the scoop of ice cream was just 2 scoops of ice cream, and half scoop was just a scoop of ice cream.
What?
But the 2 scoops was the price of 2 scoops. Or I guess that was the way of making people buy 2 scoops of ice cream. I just find that quite funny. Yeah.
Oh, that's it.
Yeah, that's the story.
That doesn't make any sense. Why don't you just call it 1 and 2?
Yeah,
I guess maybe it's
like
the difference between marketing things as like 99p instead of £1.
Right. Yeah. The chapter house at Laycock Abbey was McGonagall's classroom in the first film. I think it changed in the second one onwards, but from the first film, McGonagall's classroom was at Laycock Abbey. And Laycock also, just around the corner, has some other locations, but we can talk about that when we get to those sections in a very long time. And then, obviously, we have Hagrid's hut, which is a set, but it's situated in front of the Forbidden Forest, which is briefly mentioned by Hagrid, which is in the films Black Park in Wexham.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, well...
That would be cool to go to. That's such a... Is that in Prisoner of Azkaban? And onwards?
No, I don't think so. I think it's in the first 2.
In this one, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, in that case, I'm not that interested.
Yeah, it's a pretty boring. It's a park and there's a little wood area.
I much prefer the grounds, Prisoner and onwards.
Prisoner of Azkaban reinvented so much of Hogwarts and Harry Potter, and I'm sure lots of people hate it, but I love it so much.
I think people liked it, but the change was quite jarring.
Yeah.
Whereas for me, I mean, I as I keep on saying, did not read the first 3 before watching the films.
Right.
Or the first 4, I can't remember. But to me, that wasn't jarring at all. I was like, it's just a different film.
Right.
Like, and I think like the fact that everything was very different, it just kind of seemed natural that the grounds would be different.
Right. Right, the tone was different. Yeah.
Yeah.
See,
Harry, like, they're all so grown up.
Different. Yeah. The third film is my favourite by far, and
yeah,
I had to wait for ages to watch the third one because it's quite a bit darker in tone.
Yeah, I remember you like painfully like, oh, Mum's not letting me watch Prisoner of Azkaban, and I was like, that's a good decision, Lucy.
Yeah, but then when I did watch it, and maybe that's part of the reason I love it so much, is because I'd had to wait for it, and it was, well, I then had to wait to watch the fourth one because that was 12 anyway. I was just
I loved it. It was my favourite for a long time, and it probably still is, like, at least in my top 3, along with 6.
The film?
I think 3, 4 and 6, the film.
6?
I think, yeah, it's 6.
Okay,
funny.
Sorry.
I mean 6 is probably my least favourite out of my favourites.
Right.
Because the tone is just so strange of 6.
Yeah.
It's like a romantic comedy, and then Harry and Dumbledore just randomly go off to a cave and Dumbledore dies.
Yeah.
Spoiler. But I really liked the funny bits of 6.
I love again, we'll talk about this when we get to it, but I love the Felix Felicis bit with Harry. Like, sassy Harry really had time to shine in that film.
Yeah. But 3, it's just so, like, I love the atmosphere of it. Like,
I love it so much.
And I like that it's, like, very obviously in Scotland. Like, the grounds always look very wet and rained on
and hilly.
And I love the colours in it as well. Like, the colours are so rich yet so dark. Anyway.
Okay.
Sorry.
Anyway, that's the end of yes.
Both book and film.
Yeah, I think it's anyway. So yeah, that's the end of the Marauders map for today. So that concludes this episode of Potterwatch from page to screen.
Keep twiddling those dials. Keep each other safe. Keep faith. Good night. I think you were super late, but I'll get going then. Very organised today. Go on. Okay. I remember you saying. I'll go, then you go. Sorry, that was really bad.